Good gaming champions. Welcome back to Champions Tabletop and our new series that we have coming for you. It's called The Best of Board Games. Of course, today I am joined, as always, by the boys. We've got Shay over there. We've got Dion over here. And, of course, Matt here to bring you all the best of board game information. And, of course, before we get started, we have to say, if you are inclined to do so, we would love a like. If you can, subscribe, comment on these videos. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to see, how we can bring you better content week after week. And more importantly, thank you for being here and spending your time with us. So with that said, gentlemen, we are starting a new series where we're going to go through the best of board games and some of the things that we really love about this hobby space that we think can spark some good conversations. And again, why I emphasize, send us some comments. Let us know what you think. This week's video is going to really highlight one of the most important things that makes any board game work. It's what separates many from others, and it helps us find genres that we'll enjoy, which is the best of mechanics. So with that said, what we're going to do is we're going to go around and just kind of share what our favorite mechanics are, some of the games that really helped us fall in love with those mechanics, and some things that if you like any of these mechanics, we definitely recommend that you go check out to enjoy some of the things that we've loved about this hobby space. Gentlemen, are you excited about this one?
Oh, yeah. I like to talk about the mechanic I got. Like, I love the mechanic, especially it's perfect because my mechanic makes sense being a mechanic.
It's a lot of M's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's the most brevity you've ever had, Dion. I love it. I love it. Well, since you apparently don't want to talk, Dion, let's go to you.
Yeah, go to me first.
Yeah, let's go to you first. So,
Let's
Dion,
go.
what's your favorite mechanic when it comes to board games?
First, let's preface by saying there's about 30 different mechanics in board games. And some will argue, like I'll argue with Van Ryder in their new game called Gateway Island, where they say some are mechanics, and I'm like, those are design features, those aren't mechanics. So,
That's not my argument.
and you could argue back and forth one way or the other. However, my favorite mechanic, if I had to pick one, I like it when they mix mechanics together and then give you a good experience with a great IP on top of it. I would probably have to say I love action selection, but I would have to go with worker placement. Only because I think I enjoy worker placement more. If I start thinking about my top 5 or 6 favorite games, a lot of them are worker placement style gaming. And then if I'm excited to play something, majority of the time it's a Euro, which is majority of the time worker placement, right? But you go with like Lords of Waterdeep, one of the best worker placements out. I like the new Age of Heroes that came out from WizKids, which to me is a better themed worker placement game than Lords of Waterdeep with the same feeling. I also am a huge fan, as you know, of My Father's Work is my favorite game currently. So that's a worker placement game where you're putting workers out, you're getting supplies, you're using those supplies. But that has a couple, most of those still have other mechanics that shine in them, but I think the main mechanic is a worker placement, and you can't do a whole lot to mess with me, right? You can go, I'm taking that spot, and I go, crap, now I got to think about what else I got to do to get what I got to get done on this board. But Uwe Rosenberg comes to mind, Lacerda comes to mind. He's more action selection, but I do like a lot of his worker placement mentality. And I like how they come up with other ways to do worker placement to where if you place a worker there and if somebody else goes there, you have to give them a coin or give them something for going there as well. So it kind of punishes you to just play follow the leader. So I like those mechanics that make worker placement funner, so you're not just following the leader. Viticulture, great game.
Yeah.
You know, good worker placement game. So I would have to go worker placement is if I had to choose just one, even though I love them all 30, roughly 30 of them. We could talk about it. Anyway, we can argue about it. We need a whole episode of where we're just arguing on what is a mechanic and what isn't. Anyway, if I had to pick, it's worker placement for me.
And I like that too because you brought up the Gateway board game that got me into the hobby space predominantly. You know, I shared this when we interviewed Jamie Stagmeyer last year, and that was viticulture. You know, that was like the first foray into, wow, this is a lot more in depth than what I thought board games would be, you know, because I was still like the classic Risk and Monopoly kind of guy. And then you start playing games like that and you're like, whoa, this is refreshing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I think you brought up My Father's Work. And I think that's one of there's another mechanic I love of that, but the one mechanic of just trying to, especially when you try to build your monster and you need to go to the city, but then you can't go to the city without you get to one person out, and then you can't really do that if somebody else is there, or you gotta pay a little something. Like, I think those games, one, yes, it gives you that feel of like you're gonna build your own little thing, and it's gonna give you that feel of, yes, oh, this is, you can't really do your own little, you can't really mess with people with the work placement, because you're just, except for if you pick the spot that you other people there.
And then you just have to change your strategy.
Then you got to change your strategy
for this turn or whatever it may be. And I'm finding myself enjoying more Lords of Waterdeep, Age of Heroes kind of worker placement, to where I still think, like I said again, Uwe makes a great game with like Feast for Odin, is a really good worker placement. One of my favorite 2-player games are Field of Arle, which is a worker placement. And
another super popular one that I think really a lot of people out there would enjoy is Lost Ruins of Arnak.
That's a good one. Stone Age is probably my introduction to worker placement, or Flamecraft. If you want to learn about worker placement, that's a simple worker placement game. There's not a real in depth, but it's you go there.
Rock Hard.
Rock Hard's a worker placement. So I find myself enjoying worker placements more than most games, even though that wasn't the mechanic that got me into board gaming, and probably not my favorite. My favorite board game has it, but not every game that probably my top 10.
But you also like, I think knowing you over the past year, I think my perception of you is that you love worker placement because it's so much about you building something for yourself to acquire the victory points. And I could see you not liking a lot of the games that are more of that, take that, where you're trying to block people off.
Yeah, well, I think a big thing for me is when I play a board game, I've got to change it's got to make me change my strategy. And in a lot of worker placements, there's not a whole lot of randomization, except in the beginning. But like I was saying with both Age of Heroes and Lords of Waterdeep, we're kind of building the board together. We're building places to go. And if I build a really cool place, every time you go there, I get a bonus. So I want you to go there. And I don't always want to go there because I don't get that bonus, but I also want to utilize that space as well. So, Lords of Waterdeep, Age of Heroes, those have been some of my favorite. Lords of Waterdeep has been my favorite for a very long time. One of my favorite worker placement games. I don't know if I would put it in my top 10 of all time. Age of Heroes is slowly working its way in, but those are games I seem to find myself to, because usually, most times in Euro gaming anyway, you have your own little board. There's a little bit of player interaction, but you can't really do anything to screw me unless you're just focusing on screwing with me, right? I'm definitely going to go there to screw with you. And that's usually where I run into problems with Shay, because he's like, I'm going to go there to see what happens. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That's not where you go. That's not what you do.
But I just
he's like, well, la la la. And I'm like,
if we had some of the behind the scenes footage of some of those.
Yeah.
That's
why Shay and I bump heads when we play games.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation. Because how to handle different personalities.
But the logic is you usually can't go into a Lacerda, a Uwe game. You can't go into those games with the same strategy every single time. You'll lose.
Right.
You have to change your strategy. And sometimes you have to change your strategy because somebody else is doing something similar to your strategy. So you have to be on your toes thinking about it all the time. Some people call it playing taxes. I don't consider it as playing taxes. I consider it getting lost. And my brain thinks of only how to maximize my points instead of, and theme matters to me somewhat, but realistically, it's not the win all been. It's not like a Mara style type of gaming where theme means a lot. Where I'm rolling dice, there's a lot of randoms, cards are coming up, and I usually hate that in my games. So that's just me personally, but that's I would say worker placement.
Okay,
Yeah.
How about you, Shay?
So I love just making things. So engine builders are my favorite. I just love to be an engine builder. Is basically you start off with some cards, but then you get some other cards, and those cards can actually help you with these cards, and these cards can help with the other cards. So now you clicking all these other cards to make another cards doing that, and it's just all this interaction and comboing to make a better thing. And usually at the end, a lot of people say like, oh, I wish I just got my engine going. I could have done more stuff, and you can't anymore because the game's over. But I just love finding those things. Some easy ones that comes to mind. Project L is an engine builder. That's a good one. Our game that we like that is on our shelves, which is never happens usually, is A Wonderful World. That one, engine builder. Furnace is a pretty good engine builder, and all those engine builders have different like elements to them, but you still are going to be like, oh, I can get that card. That card can do this. This card can do that too if I do this together. Oh, it just makes me happy. I don't win sometimes.
I don't think I've played an engine builder where your strategy, I go, he's way off the ball. And then all of a sudden it starts clicking. But if you don't play an engine builder and at the end of it don't go, man, I needed 1 or 2 more rounds, you probably didn't play correctly, right? Because you're always, it ends way too fast for me. I love to play them, but it feels like just as I get my strategy firing is when the game ends. And I'm like, and I understand because if you had 2 more turns, you probably are killing the game at that point. You're scoring ridiculous points.
Right.
You know, because you've destroyed whatever it is. But I'm a big fan of engine builder too. I agree with you on that one. And I could have picked that one for you because of the games we've played together, and I've seen you. There's this card game that Nick brought, 51st State, I feel bad. That I was playing, and I was just like, it just wasn't clicking for me right away. And I thought, Shay's just totally screwing himself over there. There's no way he's going to come out of this. And he ends up blowing everybody out of the water the last couple rounds. And I'm like, I can't believe your stuff fired off like that. Because he just seen it before other people would see the full picture, which was cool. But some of the cards he was buying, I was like, that's dumb. That's stupid. I don't know what you're doing. And he's total chaos that comes together at the end, which I think that's Shay in a nutshell.
Really?
Just complete chaos that just
comes together, right?
It still functions,
Functional chaos.
Functional chaos. But they're good. That one was a good one. The one we played with Ali, that one you just, I was playing it easy and like, I should get that one, but I'm not. And then Shay just out of habit of doing engine building.
Right. I can't help it.
Just like City of Living from Trick or Tostitos. Yeah.
Right. I didn't do it on purpose. It's literally. Well, I just love.
He's never came back since. So
he left.
We'll have to show the video. He never came back after that.
We'll show
beat him so bad. He never sent a text like, I no longer want to be your friend.
God,
so congratulations.
Yeah.
You broke him.
You broke him.
I can't. But engine builders, I love them.
Yeah.
You're talking about City of the Living is the game you're talking about for Spooktober, copyrighted by Matt. And
again, if by anybody, we're not going to talk about that. That's a whole video right
I
there.
seen somebody else using it the other day too, and I was like, we got that.
Yeah,
That's
we did that. Yeah.
Anyway.
It's on our TikToks too.
It's on
TikToks.
Yeah, we claim that. But City of the Living, and apparently you put him in the death. So
horrible.
That's why he couldn't come back.
Out of me. Oh, I felt bad for myself, and you destroyed him. I was like, I lost by 5 points.
I said apologies to the video. Like I looked at the audience, like I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
like,
we'll have to show. We'll still have to put it out.
Yeah, we'll put it out.
So bad that Ali never came back.
Like the kindness you show when you think of like playing a new game
Yeah.
with somebody who's brand new to the hobby, and you want to get him involved and then get him engaged with it. So you kind of big brother him a little bit, and you're like, you kind of give him a little extra. Ooh, I missed that.
That's what
to make them feel a part of it. Not Shay.
No, don't say not Shay. That was the one
not
Shay
Shay.
one time.
Oh,
we can
not
talk
Shay.
about. Don't maybe bring up blood rage.
No.
Do not talk. Thank you. Then I want to hear it.
Matt, what's your favorite? Let's move this along.
Shay put him in the ground.
Let's don't break that up. Well, what's your favorite, buddy? Have to tell a blood rage story some other time.
Yeah.
So mine, honestly, mine kind of goes lock and step with yours too, and that's my favorite mechanic. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. My absolute favorite mechanic is dexterity.
I know.
That's not even a mechanic.
It is a mechanic.
I'm just kidding. It is a mechanic. I'm joking. It is a
Because
mechanic.
the truth is dexterity is always going to be my favorite because it comes down to, as a small child, playing rod hockey games and super checks, which is my favorite tabletop game of all time. Debatable if it's tabletop, but I say it is because it's on the tabletop. And anyways, even down to like, what?
I was with you with
So
Crokinole.
your favorite
But what's your favorite? What's your gonna be
your
favorite?
So then you get into Crokinole and Shuffleboard and things like that are on tabletops. Yes, they are absolutely. But anyways,
one job we gave you was pick and this is what you bring to the table.
no, it's not. I've got one.
Okay.
But I'd be remiss if I didn't say it because even
wasn't
down to
in
Tiddlywinks,
It
man.
wasn't in Gateway.
Even down.
I don't think I see.
I can't help it. They're wrong.
I think it was in there. I think it might have been in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think they even have a little mini game with it where you're flicking something or doing
Oh,
something.
never mind.
and
There
trying
you
to
go.
make it
Okay,
last.
wait,
I could be wrong though. I
What's
don't
I don't remember.
Pitch
Pitch
car.
car. Oh, I like.
That's
I
still
really
one I
wanna
would
play it.
love to play, but it's
I
so expensive because it's out of print.
But your
They just
favorite
redone
mechanic.
Ice Cool. You know, the people that are sponsoring Voss Media Board Game Cafe next month in November is Golden Goose Games, and they just got the right to reprint Ice Cool, and they're even doing an
Well, because they had a
expansion to
second
it.
one too.
I will too. Yeah,
And they're even doing an expansion to the original Ice Cool, which is pretty cool.
That's cool.
My problem is everybody who wants it has got it. You know, so but
I
but
mean,
I
I
think
don't have
that's
it.
I think that's neat to bring it back around for a new generation. So
Yeah. So
Anyway, go ahead.
So
Sorry.
my real favorite one is deck building. I like the randomness to it, which I know you don't. But
I love deck building, but I love pure deck builders. I'll tell a story real fast. I know. Anyway,
He wasn't talking at first.
that
Now look at him go.
is, I know. That's why I said I had a lot to talk about. That was the gateway drug for me. That was the drug that somebody brought that in during a meeting. We used to develop video games, and we would use that to break apart our video game meetings. We would pull board games out and play them for a little bit to kind of get our mind off of whatever we're doing, and then go back to being creative with video games. And somebody brought the first year Dominion came out, brought Dominion, and I was kind of liking board games, but I wasn't heavy into it. And that was my, I bought that. I immediately left, went to the local game store in town and bought it immediately. And I don't do that. And then I had 30 of the, I think it's like 30
There's a whole bunch of
expansions. I don't know. I
expansions.
had like every expansion that came out for it. Dominion is one of my favorite games of all time. Only because that was my drug of choice. Right. And then I got introduced to real gaming after that. So I didn't, like next level gaming, like Lacerda's, and then now,
God.
But anyway, I'm with you on that. They've got some really good deck builders.
So because for me, and I know it's not true deck building within like the tabletop space, but like TCGs have always been a
that's
thing
deck
with me.
building,
In a way,
kind
you
of.
are. I mean, technically, you are building a deck.
The internet
but-
ruined that for me, but
Yeah.
that's because you can go on and see what the meta is, and then
correct.
this
Yeah,
wins
that
60,
makes
70% of
sense.
the time, and then now you're just card hunting.
Well, no, I agree.
Because I mean, like right now, my favorite game is Altered TCG, and again, it is a deck builder because you build a deck. But I agree with you. Like I love pre-internet, and that's what a lot of people out there will never get the joy of is being in a world where you have to construct your own decks with your own ideas and your own themes, and not have everything ruined because somebody's already min-maxed everything through 8 million computations with a piece of software that they made.
That's my
to
problem with
maximize
TCGs.
everything.
You just labeled out my problems with trading card games.
But ironically, like the first deck builder I really played was not Dominion; it was actually Ascension. And funny enough, I actually was playing it on my like iPhone 10. So I played it off of the App Store, and I didn't even initially know it was a tabletop game. I thought it was just a card game on the App Store.
Yeah.
And I would kill so many hours with that. I just absolutely loved it, thoroughly enjoyed it. And then when I started to get more into the board game space, Lord of the Rings living card game was one of the first ones.
So good.
That, because of the theme. And again, just kind of getting that exposure. So that one really brought me into the space, and then of course that paralleled into when Marvel Champions came out.
Yeah, Marvel Champions is so
which
good.
is
And that's a pre-deck builder. So you're building your deck ahead of time and then running it against something, which I like because even though they tell you the best way to build it, you don't have to. You're all cooperative. You don't have to play that way. You can just do it.
Right.
And another one that really caught me in that Marvel space was the Legendary series, which I know a lot of people like the Firefly, they like Matrix.
Yeah.
I really liked the Marvel one, which is very similar to like the Aeon's End, which again, another popular one. But some of the ones that kind of, as I got deeper into board gaming, that really stood out to me were one of my favorite games of all time, Dune Imperium.
Oh yeah.
And again, that's kind of debatable engine builder, but again, it is a deck builder because you're buying your cards and you're playing them out of hand. And
could
you've got
see
to
that.
make those decisions between, do I want the money for the value or do I want to play the card? Which to me, back to the point you said with some of like engine builders is, every time I feel like I'm finally getting some sort of synergy with my card sets, the game's over.
Yeah.
And it always irritates me.
The only thing that irritates me about deck building is the river style deck building. So a lot of the games you mentioned has like a river that comes out, and a lot of times they have some broken cards.
Yeah.
And then the card will come out on your turn, and it's going to have to make it all the way right by the table before it gets to my turn. So I'm going to lose opportunities on that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm more of a fan of like a Dominion as a deck builder. I don't mind Clank so bad because Clank has like a couple starters that's always available, and then these 3 or 4 pop out all the time, and so you can get going pretty quickly with those starter ones.
That was one I was going to list too, and just to highlight just a couple more that I had was because I do love campaign games, and buying miniatures really should have been my favorite mechanic. But I think
Kickstarter's a mechanic. That's what I like to do.
I'm really good at it.
I'm really good at it.
Gloomhaven did such a phenomenal job with this because it is such an important
Yeah,
part
Gloomhaven
of
is a deck builder.
the overall
That's a
game.
main mechanic. Yeah.
Another mechanic I really love is skirmish games, and within that's where games like Undaunted come in. And I'm really excited to get my hands on the new one that just came out, the 2055. But especially Undaunted Normandy was such a great mechanic because deck builder because it really dictated your movement and how that game played.
Have you ever played like Malifaux and stuff where you use a deck, like a building deck? You're building decks and playing the cards.
Malifaux, I do not want to put those minis together.
Yeah, is the minis difficult to put together?
Yeah,
I've seen some of them look beautiful.
Literally,
painted.
it's like, oh, you got a finger. You got to put the finger on.
Oh,
really?
Oh,
Yeah.
God, no.
Because I've read a little bit about it, and somebody brought in miniatures that look beautiful.
They're phenomenal.
But but you play with like a deck of cards, and you're playing like you're pulling cards, and it's better to have the that kind of thing. So I didn't know if anything you ever tried anything like because I know you love your wargaming a little bit.
Well,
like
I'm
your
really good at
tabletop,
buying
so.
the wargaming stuff. And then the last one I was going to highlight, just because this was on one of my lists of our top best games for solo, which was Dion's favorite video we made. But that's baseball highlights. Again, I just
one of those. Yeah.
absolutely love that game. It's still one of my favorite solo games of all time. But again, it's all about deck building and building your cards up so that way you have stronger hits, stronger plays, stronger defense, and just something about that mechanic has always really struck me.
Yeah, that's a good mechanic. I like that one. Like I said, it's funny that I chose your gateway and then you chose my gateway of deck building, but I've always been a huge deck building fan.
Yeah.
I think I've kind of pulled a little bit back because of the randomness nature of whatever card comes out kind of matters more.
Yeah. But that's what I like about deck
agree.
builders, though, is like I said, I like more of that because to me, that gives me more of a sense of replayability where I really do not like min-max. I don't like it. And so games that are predicated around, and that's the problem with a lot of solo games out there is so many of them are literally get the best score you can. And it's literally just about how do I maximize every move to get the highest amount of points of every single thing that I do. Yeah. And that's not my favorite type of play. Yeah. I don't want to do that. I like more quick pace.
Well, for me, it's like a
movements.
golf. Like I can go out and hit them well one night, and then one night I can't keep it on the fairway.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can't stick with the same strategy you used the last time you played. The randomization is set up ahead of time, so everybody's dealing with the same setup of randomizing. So we both can't go in it the same exact way. And I'm going to have a different strategy than you have, and so for me, I do like the min-max. I think a little more than I like the break games. Really, I'm a huge fan of like breaking games or trying to find the breaking point of the game.
Right.
So,
Exactly. So with that said, that's our best of board games for best mechanics. So definitely, if you get a chance, leave a comment below. Let us know what your favorite mechanics are.
Yeah, name some games that you like that has those mechanics. I'd be interested to read them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that way the other people who watch the video, all 17 of them, will be able to check out some new games. That's what this is all about. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our inaugural episode of Best of Board Games, Best Mechanics Edition, and Champions
Never
Stop
playing.
I was leaving that for you. You said never. I said stop. I thought it felt so right.
Did it?
It did feel right.
I don't know. I'm really bad with
I
it.
don't.
Felt-
I thought we were saying all together.
Champions.
Never.
Stop.
Playing, I think, right?
Oh
Gaming?
my God.
What is the word?
Just
It's
stop.
playing. It's
Just
playing.
cut it. Just cut it right
cut
here.
It. This is cut it. We done.
Yeah, all that I got, I give it everything. They lost the plot, they think I'm menacing. They wanna talk, but I ain't settling. Circle is tight, feeling like better rains.